Well, welcome, Brother Joseph. I'm glad to be talking to you, and long time no see. And we're going to jump into your teaching here called Tongue Tied on Frank's EC channel. And this is, I think, an important teaching from what you've shared with me because there's a lot of confusion in Messianic Hebrew roots and other circles concerning the Tetragrammaton, or people call it the sacred name, the holy name, considering other words, maybe in Hebrew or Greek, and how we handle language, especially in the believing community. So I want you to walk us through this, and hopefully it will benefit us, and we'll probably have several parts to this teaching. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Brother Joseph, and introduce yourself and take off.
All right. Shalom, Brother Frank. Thank you for inviting me to share this teaching. It's a labor of love. As I've been around the Torah communities over the last, I don't know, so many years, 10 or more years, just some of these issues keep coming up. And so I've had some, different ideas. And so I just put this teaching together to try to help bring peace. I think we should pursue peace in all things with all men, as much as lies in us, as the Bible says. So I think understanding brings peace. And so this is just a consolidation of different grammatical issues, so to speak, as we run into them. And I think a lot of them are just because we really don't understand language. It's really hard. Language is living. It's very challenging, and there's a lot of, if you don't understand idioms, euphemisms, parables, symbolic language, if you don't understand all of these different literary devices that are being employed in the scriptures, in the Hebrew, in Greek, and all languages, especially even English, we all have these things. So once we understand it, some people say you got to take the Bible literally, which I do. I love to take it literal, but if you take euphemism literally, you can be mistaken very quickly. You have to interpret the symbology and take that literal. And so that's what I like to do with this teaching. It's rather long. We could break this up over however many,
Well, let's
sessions.
talk about that right there, and I'll let you go on. Let's take the classic example of the Bible uses the terminology of trees sometimes for a literal tree, and sometimes trees refer to people or persons or nations. And if we misapply that, then we come up with a really weird doctrine or teaching. For example, in Daniel chapter 5, Nebuchadnezzar is referred to as a great tree. He's literally not a tree. So that's kind of what you're referring to, correct? It's a metaphor.
Exactly. There's a lot of that in the scriptures, as well as any kind of book or anything you read, any literature. So we got to get a little bit educated on these things. I've just run into a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and we all kind of have our own little way of interpreting things, and that's why we have 40,000 denominations, unfortunately, from one book. I think this is the key that explains that. I hope that's what I'm going to attempt to do with this teaching, is understand that why do we have so many different opinions and one quote unquote book, or actually a collection of books called the Bible. And so,
okay, we'll take off, and we'll let you do that, and we'll probably keep this part one to about an hour, so people will look forward to part two. So take it away, as they say.
excellent. Okay, so we don't want to end up like this gentleman in the picture here. That's unfortunate, and he may need help from a surgeon or someone to untangle that. And so it all goes back. I want to lay the foundation here. I believe all this problem began at the Tower of Babel, as we see, or Babel, as they say. We have the creation of languages, which Yah himself did this. So if anybody understands all the languages, definitely the Most High does. Genesis 11:1, now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." Kind of interesting. They're prophesying what's going to happen to them right there. But Yah came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And Yah said, "Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them." Dave Ramsey introduced me to this point here in one of his interesting teachings, that the power of unity, I think, is we're seeing a principle here in Scripture that explains to us when people are unified, according to Yah himself, nothing they propose to do will be withheld. So that's an interesting, divided we fall, right? United we stand, divided we fall. So divide and conquer is one of the most ancient forms of warfare that, I think the enemy does to us on a daily basis, with whether it be marriages, friendships, in groups and fellowships. If they divide us, they've won without, all they got to do is get us arguing over something silly. So Genesis 11:7, or sometimes not so silly. "Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So Yah scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore, its name is called Babel, because there Yah confused the language of all the earth. And from there, Yah scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. And so I like to bring some of these notes from the New English Translation Bible I have. It's Babel. In the Babylonian literature, the name Babeli meant, quote, "the gate of God." So that's interesting that they were building this tower possibly to reach into the heavens. Let's see. Maybe that's what they were trying to do, but in Hebrew, it sounds like the word for confusion. And so retain that connotation. Little tidbit there. And so going through Zephaniah 3:1, we're going to get to a powerful truth here, but I like to bring the context just to kind of just get the whole richness of it. "Woe to her who is rebellious and polluted, to the oppressing city. She has not obeyed his voice. She has not received correction. She has not trusted in Yah. She has not drawn near to her Elohim. Her princes in her midst are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves that leave not a bone till morning. Her prophets are insolent, treacherous people. Her priests have polluted the sanctuary. They have done violence to the law. Yah is righteous in her midst. He will do no unrighteousness. Every morning he brings his justice to light. He never fails, but the unjust knows no shame. Quote, "I have cut off nations. Their fortresses are devastated. I have made their streets desolate, with none passing by. Their cities are destroyed. There is no one, no inhabitant. I said, surely you will fear me. You will receive instruction, so that her dwelling would not be cut off, despite everything for which I punished her. But they rose early and corrupted all their deeds." Verse 8, "Therefore wait for me, says Yah, until the day I rise up for plunder. My determination is to gather the nations to my assembly of kingdoms, to pour on them my indignation, all my fierce anger. All the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." This end time prophecy will be fulfilled very soon, in my opinion. It is time to make a decision, hot or cold. Okay, so I've said all that to get to verse 9 here. "For then at the end times, I will restore to the peoples a pure language, that they all may call on the name of Yah to serve him with one accord." So we are not there yet, guys.
Well, what I would say then
Uh-huh.
is yes, we're not there yet. So there's a lot to have to come to pass for
Yes.
this change to take place. Now, some want to say that the holy tongue is the Hebrew language, But Zephaniah doesn't seem to indicate that because it's written in Hebrew to Hebrew speaking people of Judah. So that should key us that there's some other language that's going to come out that's actually purer and higher than current Hebrew, even. That's something to consider, isn't it?
Yes, very, very important. We need to take this in right here. This is a powerful lesson of truth that, maybe we can take it easy on each other. Maybe we can understand when other people have a different opinion about the pronunciation of the name. I love the name yhwh. I believe it's Yehovah because of the sources that I've seen from other. I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, fantastic teachers like Nehemiah Gordon and others, like Billy Washburn, that have the proofs. And that's the best we can do. But if someone else disagrees and says it's something else, we're going to have a restored language at the end of the age here. So let's all just let's reserve, any opinions until Messiah comes. I think we're all going to have a big aha moment, possibly. Okay. So Yah created all the languages of the earth and has no problem understanding anyone who calls on his name, regardless of the vowels used. He will restore a pure language in the near future. With the evolution of languages and their regional dialects, it is impossible for us to know the proper pronunciation. We do not have a YouTube video of Moses at the burning bush. Now we do the best we can to pronounce yhwh, but Yah will restore the Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language, and his name. And so, that's very humbling.
Well, let me ask you something. Let's stop there because we mentioned
Okay.
that you're going to move on to the next slide, I see. There's a group of people, though a minority, they're quite vocal, literally. Whether you call them the sacred name movement
Yeah.
or whatever, they insist, for instance, years ago, I was, and I'm talking at least 20 years ago, heard that Yeshua or Jesus really meant my God is a horse. And it's absolutely nonsense once you learn language. Yet I heard it out of people years and years ago before I knew any Greek, any Hebrew, and they seemed to have sources. But when you really went back and looked, they were making a gross mistake of trying to connect a Hebrew and a Greek word together to make their point. They had an axe to grind. Um, there's a dangerous thing, I think, there, and I'll let you talk about this of tying salvation. If you don't say the name just right, or you don't know the name and stuff, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Definitely, yeah. The sacred name movement, although I know a lot of brothers that I guess would maybe loosely fall into that camp. Nothing personal, but again, when we talk about things, we're talking about doctrine. You and I, Frank, I believe we're talking about doctrine, not people. So let's try to keep that in mind, separate that. We're not trying to offend anyone. It's all about the teachings and the instructions. What do we need to teach? And I think to tie a certain pronunciation, because there is no name given among men whereby man may be saved, it doesn't say there's no other pronunciation. And, if you say Jesus in English or Jesus in Spanish or, Yeshua in Hebrew, modern Hebrew, I think Yah is able to understand the heart because he looks on the heart. And so to say, if you don't, there's thousands of people over thousands of years that may have pronounced it Jesus or Jesus or, from Latin and Greek, and they didn't say Yeshua or Yahushua or some other form of Hebrew. Does that mean they all are doomed to hell? That's, to me, we all need a lot of mercy for far worse things. I know I respect the name. Don't get me wrong. I really, really have. The third commandment is very, very important. He doesn't hold anyone guiltless who takes his name in vain. That means there's no mercy for that. So we can't take his name in vain, but it doesn't say if you mispronounce my name because you're ignorant. I think Paul said, a lot of things he did was bad, but he found mercy because he did it in ignorance. And
Yes.
so,
Well, I
Yeah.
understand, but I just wanted to make this point. Like a lot of people think I'll use
Uh-huh.
the letters G and D, the little
Yeah.
hyphen in the middle. They think that's the name of the Most High.
Yeah.
It's actually a German word that was not in Hebrew or Greek. It's when Luther translates the Bible out of Latin, Hebrew, Greek, that he
Right.
borrows from the German language. And now everybody's picked up the word God, and they think that's his name when it's not. And I'm not saying they should use that in a bad way, but they simply have no understanding. That has, from my perspective, more to do with how do you represent him. If my son, whose last name is the same as mine, lives a real wretched and criminal lifestyle, he reflects on me. He doesn't have to curse me with some kind of language. All he has to do is misrepresent my name to others by the way he lives. Would you think that's correct?
If he misrepresented on purpose
No,
or
just by
accidental.
living a wicked life.
Oh,
Flex on the family name.
yes, that would definitely bring shame to your name.
So that's
Like,
blaspheming the name. That gets very scary because then you
yeah,
have to ask who then can be saved, as the apostles said in one place. But I'm going to let you go on with the presentation. I just thought we would
yeah.
kind of flush this point out a bit.
Yes, definitely. We need to do that as we go through. I definitely want to hear your feedback on this. So, um, moving forward here, we're going to look at the name Jesus. There's a lot of different opinions on this. This is what I have found. Your mileage may vary. Just this is basically a show and tell, a collection of things I've discovered and I present today. So there is no other pronunciation. Um, Let me see here. Move that out of the way. Okay, Matthew 1:21, and she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Jesus in the English, Yeshua in the modern, at least what we think would be the proper pronunciation, Yeshua, Jesus, Yeshua, for he will save Hosea, his people, from their sins. And so we see in the English, you will call his name Jesus, for he will save his people. Doesn't make any sense in the English, but as we know in the Hebrew, Yeshua is salvation, for he will Hosea salvation. The name Yeshua is actually the same as Hosea, his people from their sins.
Right. In other words, it's a combination of to save and the yod and the hey, the first part of the Tetragrammaton, are
Yes,
Yehoshua. Yah saves is what it means.
yes,
It makes perfect sense in Hebrew. But no, it doesn't in English, but that doesn't diminish the fact that people that couldn't understand Greek or Hebrew for 400 years, you know, were saved. And yet there are people that want to say, oh, no, if they didn't say Yeshua or Yahushua or some other form of the name in Hebrew, they weren't saved. So,
yes.
you know,
Well,
those people who had that King James Bible, for better or for worse, that's all they had.
yeah. And so it's kind of like, we all had to start somewhere, right? And we're in the time of information age where, knowledge will increase, traveling will increase according to scripture. And so, we're learning more. We're coming into a more fuller understanding. And when Messiah returns, of course, that's when that he's going to return to us a pure language. And so, that's what it is. We're just, our understanding is evolving. We're just growing and going from first grade to second grade, that kind of thing. All right. He will Hosea his people, he will save salvation. Acts 4:12. Nor is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. But again, my point is that doesn't say pronunciation there. You know, other languages like my name is Joseph in English, Yosef in Hebrew, and Jose in Spanish. You know, I'm not going to get upset if a Spanish brother says Jose, Jose, or an Israeli or someone I know, Yosef, Yosef. I'll answer it all. Numbers 13:16. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Hosea, equals salvation. 1954 is the Strong's reference there. The son of Nun. Joshua, in the English, is Yehoshua, is the way we pronounce it. Other people would have a different use of the vowels, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Is
Well, can I
how do we
focus
know?
on one thing here?
Yes,
When you
definitely.
bring up the name in Hebrew, there's two spellings there.
Yeah,
There's the 5-letter spelling Yod He Vav Shin Ayin, and then there's Yod He Vav Shin Vav Ayin. That's very unusual. That's called the complete or Malay spelling, and it tells you without vowel points how to say the name. And I know of at least 3 places in the what people call the Old Testament, the Tanakh, where the 6-letter spelling is. And it does have messianic reference and overtone. So I just wanted to drop that in there. Go ahead, brother.
thank you. Appreciate that. Very good. Yes. I don't know that I covered that fact in here, so that's good. Thank you. So yeah, Yehoshua or Yehosha, you have it 2 different ways there for Joshua. Okay. And the meaning of the name is Yehovah is salvation. Okay. It's, 2 names, 2 words put together. We'll see that here. Yehovah Hoshea, salvation of Yehovah equals Yehoshua, Joshua. And so equals Yeshua, Jesus' proper name, his proper full name. So it's like a full name versus a nickname. Yehoshua is the full name and Yeshua is the short form. I think they call it a poetic short form, things like this. So
But it
Yeshua,
doesn't change the meaning of the name. The short form doesn't change the meaning of the full name, correct?
that would be right, yes. Although I have heard that Yeshua means salvation somehow, and Yehoshua, it depends. I've heard different opinions on that. So I didn't delve into that too much. I think just this little bit here, but we can look at that more if you'd like to.
No, just go ahead. Thank you, brother.
Uh-huh. And so Yeshua, poetic short form, is Jesus in the Greek, Jesus in Latin, and that's where we get Jesus in the English is actually from the Latin. IESUS becomes JESUS because we'll see why that they had to change that into a new letter J back in the King James period of English. Psalms 44:20, if we had forgotten the name of our God or stretched out our hands to a foreign God, so forgotten the name of our Elohim, that's kind of what's happened to us. A lot of us, like myself, coming from a Christian background, we didn't know the name. We really, kind of forgot it. Verse 21, would not God or Elohim search this out? For he knows the secrets of the heart. And so I know this may have a negative connotation. If we've forgotten our Elohim and stretched our hands to a foreign deity, won't Elohim search us out? He's going to know the secrets of our hearts. But I like to prove that, we've forgotten and he looks upon the heart. So we can glean that at least from this verse, these 2 verses. The scriptures say there's no other name, but it doesn't say there's no other pronunciation. Yah knows our hearts and will judge righteously. He understands all the languages he created. So Father is the author of all these languages at the Tower of Babel. All right. So there is no other pronunciation. Continuing on here, we see that the Strong's number H3091, Yehoshua, occurs 218 times according to the King James Concordance there. Joshua equals Jehovah is salvation. He was the son of Nun, the successor to Moses, okay, as the leader of Israel. Also, several other people.
May I inject here again?
Yes.
Again, you've brought up the 5 and 6-letter spelling. They both pretty much sound the same in English. Again, they all get translated as Joshua.
Yes.
But in the Hebrew, though they're close, Yehoshua or Yehoshua would be the more correct. You have the sound of the 2 vowels, one, and you've got accent marks over the oo and the u there, but you have those vowels there giving you the complete vowels. But in English, it all flushes out to Joshua. Now, the confusion is I didn't know Joshua and Jesus were the same name because my pastor in the church has never told me anything like that. You would have thought,
Right.
excuse me, they would have learned something, at least a little bit of Hebrew and Greek in seminary, and would have explained this. Until I started doing study on my own, I never knew this. So I'll let you finish your point there, but I just wanted to inject that again because in the 6-letter spelling, it's not all over the place. Most of the time, it's the 5-letter in Hebrew.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I did include that information in here. Thank you for adding that. It is, but yeah, like you said, it always ends up being Joshua in the English, but I guess Yehoshua or Yehosha, uh, possibly. And you're saying, so usually it's Yehosha, the shorter one, or Yehoshua out of
It
the
would just be
218 occurrences.
Yehoshua.
Okay. So this name appears quite often, 218 times in the Hebrew Bible, what we call the Old Testament. H 3442, Yeshua occurs 28 times. Yeshua equals he is saved, is what they're saying in the Brown Driver Briggs. He is saved. Okay, so is also the son of Nun of the tribe of Ephraim and successor to Moses. So in certain places, he's called Yeshua instead of Yehoshua, the short form of the name, as opposed to the long form. So to me, that gives credence there to this Yeshua version of the name, that Joshua himself was called Yeshua or Yehoshua in the Hebrew 28
Well,
times.
it's correct. And the change to the shorter form of the name comes after the Babylonian captivity. But it's not an error. It's just they shortened the name. Uh, and it was probably interchangeably. Maybe it's like, you know, what mama called you when she was happy with you, or what mama called you when she was mad at you.
Amen.
That's
That's
what
right.
it used to be. So, anyhow,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And so Joshua is called Yeshua, which is found in the Hebrew 28 times. Of course, there's other people named that as well. And then we've got them all listed there. All right. So, Dr. Brown, we all have heard his teachings. I've seen him in person teaching, and, like him or not, he is a human. I think if you put anyone under a microscope, you can find, they're a human, So I don't know all the allegations that happened to this man, but he does have a PhD in Near English Languages and Literatures from New York University. He's the founder and president of his ministry, and an adjunct visiting professor there, contributor to academic publications, and so on and so forth. So he's very good at the language, I believe, at Hebrew, and he has a good video on this controversy about how to say the name of Jesus in the Hebrew. And so in this video clip that I'm going to bring, he brings this point, and I thought it was a very good point. So I went ahead and kind of placed it in here before we see the video. So the
Okay,
Greek
well,
letters.
we'll have to
Go
give
ahead.
credit for the, I'm sorry, we'll have to give credit for the video when we publish this, and we will do
Yeah.
that. But I've also seen the video, and while I might have some other issues, secondhand knowledge, though, of course,
Yeah.
of Dr. Brown, I think as far as language use, he's credible there. And so I'm going to let you dive into this, but I thought I'd let our audience know that because you're going to play a video, I'm going to have to give credit for it in this presentation when I edit it for publication. So continue on, brother.
Yes. And so very good. The Greek letters Jesus, all right, the original Greek for Jesus are iota, eta, sigma, omicron, upsilon, and sigma, pronounced roughly Jesus, transliterating the Hebrew Yeshua, meaning salvation. The breakdown of the letters: iota, pronounced like I, eta, like hey, so it's ea. Sigma, and Seuss, okay, for the rest of the name. So the problem is in the first two letters. That's the focus, is determining between Yah or Yeshua or Yahushua, Yahshua. There's a lot of people that believe it should be Yah because, hallelujah and these other things. And so I think this is a great point. In about 3 minutes and 23 seconds into this video we're about to watch, he brings this point. I'm going to quote him here. I've cleaned it up a little bit because there is some stuttering that goes on as he's speaking. But basically he's saying this: Septuagint, when it is translated when he translated Yeshua, and the name the same way in the Greek New Testament. So thousands of manuscripts we have of the Greek New Testament, they all say Jesus. Now, if it was pronounced Yah, then instead of having iota eta, the Greek would have iota alpha. And you have words with Yah like Yavne in the, talking about the Septuagint, what we call the Old Testament. There's names like Yavne, for example, a place called Yavne. You have names like that in the Hebrew Bible, and they are transliterated into Greek, they're transliterated as Yah. Yavne is Yah opposed to Yeh, right? So the Greek transliteration is telling you, and the Greek name Jesus is telling you it was not Yah. In other words, they have Greek to make the sound Yah, Yavne, but when it came to Jesus, Yeshua, they used iota eta, which gives it a yeh instead of a yah. So you can use that as one of the proofs, and that's one of the proofs why I believe it was Yeshua, not Yahshua. And because that's the way it's recorded, not only in Greek, but Latin, and we'll see some other languages that's the case. But here's the video. It's not too long, several minutes here, 8 minutes.
Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the Line of Fire.
Hey, Dr. Brown. God bless you. I've got a question. So I'm part of a ministry, CFM, and we're very zealous for the word. But there's a little bit of a division, and it's not the major, but we are kind of in discussion about the name of Jesus in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. And I've listened to some of your teachings on it. But one of the gentlemen holds to Yahshua, YAH, Shua. And I've shown him your teachings on it, and he says he just doesn't trust you and your teachings on it because of there was supposedly a revival of the Hebrew language in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And so he says that the Hebrew language was lost. Or
nonsense. 100% complete nonsense. 1,000,000% complete nonsense. The Hebrew language has been used continuously for thousands of years. It has been used daily in prayer. It has been used daily in study of Scripture. It has been used daily in scriptural commentary, and on in the religious Jewish community for centuries. What was revived was spoken Hebrew. Spoken Hebrew as a language that you just chat about, like, what did you watch in sports last night? Or what do you want to have for dinner? Or kids, you need to be quiet, it's bedtime. Spoken Hebrew was revived at the turn of the last century, especially under the leadership of Eliezer ben Yehuda, all right? But Hebrew, in terms of the language itself, is called Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew, the holy tongue, has been actively used, studied. There's literature that's been written.
We're losing the sound there, Joseph.
All kinds of Hebrew books that have been written over the centuries, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It has never stopped being used every single day by large numbers of Jews around the world. It just wasn't a common spoken language like we'd be speaking, back and forth today just in conversation. So anyone who knows anything about Hebrew whatsoever knows that to be true. This is not dispute. This is not a theory I just gave you. As surely as there's a country called the United States of America, everything I just told you about Hebrew is known to anyone who knows anything at all with any accuracy about Hebrew. That's number one. Number two, we know for sure the ancient pronunciation was not Yahshua. We know it from ancient sources. I can be 1,000,000% sure of that as well. How do we know it? Well, we know it because all of the Hebrew vocalization that we have, right, which reflects earlier traditions going back to biblical days, vocalizes the equivalent Hebrew name in the Old Testament. used about 30 times for 8 or 9 different people as Yeshua, right? Not Yahshua, but Yeshua. That's first thing. The second thing, the Greek, the Septuagint, when it translated that, and the same way in the Greek New Testament, so the thousands of manuscripts we have of the Greek New Testament, they all say Jesus. Now, if it was pronounced Yah, then instead of the Greek having iota eta, the Greek would have had iota alpha. And you have words with Yah, like Yavne, for example, a place called Yavne. You have names like that in the Hebrew Bible. And when they're transliterated into Greek, they're transliterated as Yah, as opposed to Ye, right? So the Greek transliteration is telling you, and the Greek name Jesus is telling you it was not Yah. And then the ancient Syriac has 2 different pronunciations of Jesus, both of which would reflect the Ye sound, not the Yah sound. So we know without any question that it was not Yah. We also know that Yeshua is short for Yehoshua, right? So the Yah, right. You do not have Yah as the divine name, the divine particle at the beginning of a Hebrew name. That's not the way it went. You might have had Yahu, right? So Yahweh shortened, and then it becoming Yeho. You'd have something like that. So Yehoshua. But you did not have a name, Yahshua, anywhere in ancient history, anywhere in the Hebrew Bible, to my knowledge, anywhere in the history of the Hebrew language. It is people, you will not find a single academic source in the world, a solid recognized academic source, a solid recognized Hebrew scholar, arguing for an ancient pronunciation of Yahshua. The only argument that you'll have among some rabbinic Jews and some Hebrew philologians is whether in the first century the final ah was clearly heard. It's what's called a glottal stop or non-syllabic glide vowel. So Yeshua, was it originally, at the time of Jesus, was it clearly pronounced Yeshua, or was it simply pronounced Yeshua and the final ayin ended there? That's the only debate, and most agree it was Yeshua with that final ah sound. But no argument that the beginning was not Yah. I actually almost started to write on this the other day, just quite randomly, that it's not Yeshua. Somebody probably posted it, and I saw it again. So hopefully your friend has the humility to recognize that he's completely in error when it comes to the history of the Hebrew language, and that I'm not basing this on modern Hebrew. I'm basing this on ancient Hebrew. I'm basing this on all the Hebrew texts and manuscripts that we have. I'm basing this on the Greek transliteration of the Hebrew Bible. I'm basing this on the Greek New Testament. I'm basing this on the Syriac translation of Peshitta. It's not ambiguous. It's not debated. There is no such name as Yahshua. And if people want truth, look, you can mispronounce it and God still knows who you're talking about. You can butcher the name and God's not going to not answer your prayer because you butchered the name. But why not get it right since we have the information? And by the way, Yeshua in Hebrew becomes Jesus. In Greek, there is no sh sound in Greek, right? So Shlomo, right, which is the Hebrew name for Solomon, the Shlomo becomes Solomon. Shaul becomes Saul, right? Because there is no sh sound in Hebrew. So when you take the Hebrew Yeshua, then go from there into Greek into Latin, and then ultimately into English, Jesus is the way we say it in English. So that's perfectly fine as well. Jesu in Italian, Jesus in Spanish, and various other ways. Thankfully, God knows who we are talking about. There is no ambiguity here. This is not a matter of, well, it could be this, it could be that. When that's the case, I'll tell you, here's one position, here's another. I could go either way with it. No, not here. So hopefully people will just give up this Yahshua nonsense or what other silly names they have. If you want to call him Joshua in full, Yehoshua is the full name, that's not erroneous. He wouldn't have been known by that, but that's just the full name. If I was identified as Mike and people called me Michael, it would be kind of an equivalent there. Anyway, say goodbye to the myth of Yahshua. God knows it's a myth. Yeshua knows it's a myth. Why propagate a myth? It does you no good. Hey, friends, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, click on one of the boxes on this. Alex in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Welcome.
All right. So sorry about that. I had muted my mic. I didn't know it was getting audio through my mic instead of the video.
Okay. Well, we hope that turns out well. So we're going to let you pick up another source here, and this looks like at least a second edition King James English from probably 1600 and something. So I'll let you explain it here.
Yeah, I need to get a better graphic. This is so pixelated, but it's IESUS in the original 1611 King James. And so, it's interesting they changed it over time.
That's what I thought it looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had several revisions. Excuse me. Okay. So Yeshua, Jesus, Isis, and Jesus. The name Jesus has been transliterated into several languages throughout history due to its significance in Christianity. Here's how it has been transliterated in Aramaic, Greek, and Latin. Aramaic, the name Jesus is as Yod Shin Wav Ayin. This Aramaic spelling corresponds to the name Yeshua or Yeshua, which is the name commonly used for Jesus in his original historical and cultural context. So Aramaic is also agreeing with the yeah instead of the Yah. The Greek New Testament, again, like we said, the Bible, which includes the accounts of Jesus' life, was written in Greek. In Greek, Jesus' name is transliterated as Jesus. Latin, the same thing, the language of the Roman Empire, and it played a significant role in the spread of Christianity. In Latin, Jesus' name is translated as Isis. It's important to note that the specific transliterations can vary, and the pronunciations and spellings might not match exactly, across languages and historical periods. The most common forms are Yeshua, Aramaic, Jesus, Greek, and Isis, Latin. The English form Jesus is derived from the Latin transliteration. These are three witnesses for the Yeshua pronunciation, preserved in Aramaic, Greek, and Latin. So if it is Yahushua or Yahshua, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I could be wrong about that. This is just the best I can do right now. And so I bring these as proofs of why I teach Yeshua or Yehoshua, because it seems to indicate that in the sources. So I'm not bringing my opinion. I'm just bringing sources. Okay. And if I find more sources, I'll bring those in here. I'm not afraid of bringing other sources, but so far, everything I'm seeing and the theologians that I listen to, they say there's no controversy. The sound represented by the letter J in English. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit on the J. Interesting
Okay.
topic here.
Well, let me inject something here real quick on the J.
Okay.
Because it doesn't come into the English is a Germanic language. It really is. Once you study roots, English has its roots as a Germanic languages. There's High German, there's Lowland German. I'm not a linguist in German, but I've read up enough on that. The J has a Y sound in German. How would I know this? I worked with a guy whose name was Jens, but it was spelled Jens, not Y, but it's pronounced Jens. So I know the J would have a Y sound. So I just wanted to inject that. The J takes on a different sound eventually in English. So I'll let you proceed, brother.
Yes, and so certain people from like the Netherlands, they say Joshua, they say Yahshua with the same thing you're saying, the Y sound. And so the sound represented by the letter J in English, as we know it today, has evolved over time. In many older languages, including Latin and ancient Greek, the J sound was not represented as a separate letter, but was often pronounced as a sound similar to the modern English Y sound. Okay. For example, in Latin, the letter I was used both for the vowel sound we associate with I today, and for the consonant sound we associate with J. Similarly, in Old English, the letter I was used for both vowel and consonant sounds. The distinction between the two sounds became more clear in Middle English, and the letter J eventually emerged as a distinct letter to represent the consonant sound. So it was an I, like in the 1611 King James, and then over time they added the little hook to the bottom to make that distinction. And it may be just pure speculation, because it was Jesus. They might have been ISIS. Somebody might have been pronouncing it ISIS, mispronouncing that, and which would be a problem as a pagan deity name. And so they incorporated the hook on the bottom of the I, making a J. So it kind of, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, from what I understand is it evolved, that the little curve on the bottom over time. So when we look
Yes,
at,
and I
I'm
don't know
sorry, go
all
ahead.
the intricacies of that, but it takes on, at least after the 1600s into the 1700s, the more the J sound, like in John or something, where in German it still has the Y sound. So
Yes.
go ahead.
So when we look at historical figures or names from times when the J sound was not clearly differentiated, we need to consider how the sound was pronounced in the context of the language of that time and region. See, language is evolving, it's living, depending on the region. I mean, even amongst Jews, there's different dialects of Hebrew, and they will pronounce a vav with a v sound or with a wa sound. It just, they're all Hebrew speaking. They just have different dialects of Hebrew. Just like if you come from the South and go up north somewhere, they're going to say that we sound a little bit different, aren't they? From Texas. And so when talking about figures like Jesus in languages where the J sound was not present or distinct, the name would have been pronounced with a sound more akin to the modern English Y. So that would have been Jesus instead of Jesus, which it just evolved into the J sound. Jesus was pronounced Jesus and originally spelled Jesus in the 1611 King James Version. So we just have to be educated. There's just a little bit of, we have to learn a little bit about language. It's just very complicated. And so anyway, did you have anything else to add about the J?
Well, no, it just, there's some misinformation out there. The trouble is people that haven't done the research you did and others believe some information that's incorrect, but you have an interesting graphic on the screen.
Yes.
I hate to ask the question here because it kind of reminds me of the Oracle of Delphi. So I'm going to let you explain this.
It just reminds me of Diana worship, I mean, so this is an image here that kind of gets into the paganism that we're going to talk about. So I've got a full screen here. I don't want to read through everything. It's just to kind of just speak about this topic.
Okay,
English.
well, let me preface this. Since we're going to get into this and then we'll probably end on this slide.
Okay.
If people don't want to use a pagan word, and the reason I'm saying that, then they're going to have to quit speaking German and English and, learn just maybe Hebrew, but even I could say there are pagan words that get injected into Hebrew, like Egyptian words that are not Hebrew, they're Egyptian. Let's use one of the most common, Moshe or Moses. It's not Hebrew, it's Egyptian.
That's right.
So I'm going to let you speak on this because there are people that go to seed. They go nuts. Oh, you can't. If you say a pagan word, you're doomed. That kind of attitude years ago in a congregation in Corpus Christi destroyed the congregation because one lady would just go into a hissy fit if anybody said anything remotely pagan or she thought was pagan, to the point it divided the congregation. And unless you speak fluent Greek and Hebrew, and I would say all the way down to Hebrew, you're going to get stuck saying pagan words that you don't know are pagan. So go ahead and fill us in on this. Thank you.
Yes, this needs to be discussed more. I couldn't agree more with you. There's so many triggers, emotional. People get real emotional about these topics, and I get it because we're very passionate. We're very zealous, and I am that way. I myself have gotten very emotional, so I totally get it. I totally get it. So as I studied these problems, the last 10 or 15 years or so, I've discovered some interesting things that I'd like to share here. English
I don't
is
want you to read every word on this list.
I'm
I hope
not.
people can see it,
Yeah.
but because we'd
Yeah.
go way over our time for the first session,
Yeah.
you have a lot of words in here that you're saying are pagan, Latin, house agriculture, pagan, you know.
No, English is pagan. And the following the order of most to least contributing languages.
Yeah,
So
well, these are the
English is,
languages that contribute to English. Yeah, I agree. English
yes.
absorbs its Germanic roots, but it has absorbed language from all these languages, and who knows today? I was thinking of even more pagan terms that people don't realize are pagan, but I'll let you proceed.
Yes, no, very good. I'm sorry that is a little confusing there. I should just be nice if I could just put the pagan words from these languages. But this particular source is explaining to us that the number one language that English borrowed from is Latin, and then to French, Greek, German, on down the way. Hebrew is number 15. We actually have Hebrew borrowed words. Okay. And so we see English is actually a big amalgamation of many languages. And so if you want to know why a language would be considered pagan, it's because there's the nation of Israel, which is married in covenant to the Most High at Mount Sinai, and then with Mashiach. And so we have a marriage with the Most High. And then the other nations are pagan. They're not in marriage covenant. So they are considered by us pagan. Well, so they will venerate their false deities with their words. And so that's what makes these words pagan. It's not, it's because they worship the false gods. So they've used their language to venerate their false gods. Well, guess what? English is based on the nations. And so we have a serious problem if like you said earlier, we need to stop speaking English. I mean, so anyhow, moving forward, we see loan words make up to 80% of English. So here's the quote here. What this means is that there is no such thing as pure English. English is a delectable, slow-cooked language of languages. As lexicographer Corey Stamper explains, English has been borrowing words from other languages since its infancy. As many as 350 other languages are represented, and their linguistic contributions actually make up about 80% of English. Okay,
All right. So we got a lot of things there to consider. Now, not all these words, of course, are pagan, but you're saying that the English language, based on the source information you're given, has borrowed from so much
right.
other languages. But if you don't speak fluent Hebrew and you speak only English, and maybe who knows, what am I speaking good English? That depends if you ask a guy from London or Sydney, Australia, if I'm speaking good English, or maybe a guy from New Jersey. You talk about different English, and there's colloquialisms. The best thing I can tell things is like Roe or Pastor Billy. I'll explain the word Roe. It means shepherd or overseer. Pastor Billy says, if you really want to learn something, learn Hebrew.
Yeah.
And that takes time. He didn't learn it in 2 or 3 years. And he is now up on the at least entry level to Hebrew scholar because he's completed the courses at Hebrew University and reads a lot better than I do in Hebrew. So I guess we're going to stop here for today.
Very good.
And this is phase 1, everybody, of our tongue-tied series with Brother Joseph. He's going to bring us more in this series. So please tune in again for the number 2 episode in the series, Tongue Tied. Shalom on your home, everybody, and we hope to see you again soon.
Shalom.
Bye for now.